NBC News released a doozy over the weekend. I just kept reading the report and smiling, and the report was this: DOJ, FBI employees are reportedly scrambling to lawyer up because they are concerned about a reckoning, revenge, ramifications. I don't know what R word we want to put on it, but either way, I'm thrilled. If these evil people are scared, that sounds like a good thing to me. Let's ask Josh about that, though. Joining me now, host of America on Trial, Josh Hammer. Okay, Josh, why in the world would a DOJ employee, an FBI agent, why would these people need to lawyer up? I don't understand what they'd be worried about.
Jesse, I'll tell you exactly what they should be worried about. They should be worried about a possible violation of 18 U.S. Code Section 241, which is legal speak for a conspiracy to deprive fellow American citizens of their constitutional and civil rights. DOJ, really for the past 7.5 to 8 years, I mean, not just including the Biden administration, but frankly, including large swaths of the Trump administration as well, because that was ultimately where a lot of the deep state shenanigans, the internal coup against the Trump presidency had really started right there at Trump's own DOJ. There have been a lot of people who have probably committed a lot of crimes inside the DOJ, which, oh, by the way, is probably why Donald Trump wants a staunch arch loyalist to be his attorney general of the United States this time around when it comes to Matt Gaetz. You know, there have been so many people in the conservative Republican legal establishment, people who are very credentialed lawyers who have been flipping out that Donald Trump could have the temerity, the chutzpah to pick Matt Gaetz there. But when you understand that basically everything that happened internally against Trump, you know, getting us Bob Mueller and the Russia probe and all that, all of it started internally at the DOJ with the FBI and the intelligence agencies as well there. I think it makes total sense for Donald Trump to want to bring in someone like Matt Gaetz, who is going to put people just like this, the Lisa Strauss, the Andy McCabe's, people like that. Those people need to be on the defensive. And if that means lawyering up, then good freaking riddance. I love it. I don't really care what R word we use either, retribution, revenge. I just call it justice, frankly. If you have committed a wrong, you should face justice. I don't really care the identity of the individual who's going to be bringing in the hammer of justice, so to speak, unintended. But if that individual takes the form of Matt Gaetz, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm all for it as well. Whether he gets confirmed or not is another story, but I am all for it. There's another rumor floating around there, Kash Patel to take over the FBI. I don't know Kash Patel. I hear very good things. But when I saw Andy McCabe go on TV and say this, it got me excited for it.
But in this case, moving forward with a nomination of Kash Patel as FBI director, really it will provoke, I think, a massive amount of backlash. Now, you know, you could make the argument that that's what he wants. He wants to disrupt. He wants to, you know, provoke the ire of people like me and others who feel strongly about the institution and what it takes to run it faithfully and ethically and legally. None of which I think Kash Patel can do. But we'll have to see. You know, I think at the end of the day, Kash Patel is profoundly incapable of running the FBI. He is absolutely unqualified for that position.
Josh, is he?
Jesse, when someone like Andy McCabe is saying that someone is unqualified, that to me sounds a lot like a huge basically a merit in that person's favor. Now, look, like you, I don't know Kash Patel personally particularly well. We've interacted a handful of times. We've done a couple of media hits together here and there, whatnot there. But for everything that I gather, all my data points on him suggest that he is just the wrecking ball that an agency like the FBI needs. The FBI is the belly of the beast of the corruption inside the federal government. The FBI was exactly where the Russia collusion delusion was laundered. That goes all the way back to Jim Comey and Christopher Wray there. The FBI has to be gutted, cleaned house. I don't particularly care if you want to take a wrecking ball and demolish the whole thing and start building up some sort of federal law enforcement agency all over again. I mean, if you want to reconstitute it, start putting some new initials there, a new acronym, just get rid of FBI. I don't have a particularly big problem with that. Look, whether or not Kash Patel is up for literally leading a large agency. Again, I don't know the guy particularly well there, but what I can tell you is that he has all the right instincts when it comes to the actual raising to the ground that is needed at a federal law enforcement agency like the FBI right now. This is Trump's instincts, I think, at their very best. Again, it's not official. The trigger has not been pulled, but this rumor has been out there for a very long time, frankly, basically since the election at this point there. And if he wants to go ahead and do it, again, I would be all for it.
Josh, tell me about this ethics complaint for Matt Gaetz, because I was watching the fight Saturday night, and I was with a bunch of my normie neighbors, and one of them immediately said, well, I'm worried about this ethics complaint. That's all he saw in the news, that there was an ethics complaint on Matt Gaetz. What is this? Is this going to derail him? What's going on with it?
So this has been going on for a long time. I mean, this gets back to the Ken McCarthy versus Matt Gaetz feud. It involves some sleazy Tallahassee, Florida fellow. So Matt Gaetz, up and coming Florida politician, served time in the state legislature in Tallahassee. His father, Don Gaetz, who is now back in the Florida legislature, prominent political family. So this goes back to Matt Gaetz' time in Tallahassee. He had a friend by the name of Joel Greenberg who has since been found guilty of engaging in sex trafficking of at least one underage woman. I don't remember the woman's name. She was 17 years old. The allegations, and they are just allegations, are that Matt Gaetz was involved in either the sex trafficking or the underage sexual activity with women. It is worth noting, Jesse, that the DOJ, the aforementioned DOJ, has looked very closely into this, and they have not filed charges. In fact, that is the reason that the House Ethics Committee has been involved in this entire report, is because the DOJ failed to find sufficient evidence to actually file charges. Therefore, they basically punted to Kevin McCarthy in the House and said, okay, you guys look into it there. This was ultimately the predicate for Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy having their whole standoff, and then that ultimately led to Matt Gaetz becoming the first congressman in U.S. history to successfully oust a Speaker of the United States. Your mileage may vary as to whether or not you like that decision, but it really does show, I think, just how shrewd as a tactician Matt Gaetz is, frankly, if nothing else there. It seems to me like there was a lot of smoke and not a whole lot of fire there. I have not seen a lot of clear evidence that Matt Gaetz has been involved in a lot of these certain activities. I think that there are reasonable complaints that someone can make against Matt Gaetz as Attorney General of the United States, namely the fact that he only practiced law for XYZ years, whatever there. Again, I think it misunderstands what Donald Trump is looking for. He's looking for an arch loyalist who can go in there and clean out the proverbial Augean stables at DOJ. But I think there are still some legitimate reasons to be skeptical of Matt Gaetz. This, in my opinion, Jesse, is not necessarily one of them. And in my opinion, the House Ethics Committee should do the proper thing at this point and deep six this report that they were set to release there. He is no longer in Congress. He's a private citizen at this point, just like me and you. I think it would be a tremendous government overreach to release a report against a private citizen at this point.
Okay, what about Pete Hegseth? You called this pick genius. So did I. Why do you like it?
I love it. This is actually one of my favorite picks Donald Trump has made thus far, actually. I mean, I defer to you, of course, my friend, when it comes to DOD and the military and the recruitment crisis that the military is facing, Army, Navy, Air Force, double-digit recruitment missing their goal the past few years. They need someone of a younger generation. I mean, you desperately need someone who is not a boomer, who does not come from the Cold War mentality, someone who has been on the front lines of America's post-9/11 wars. Pete Hegseth has won multiple Bronze Stars over in Iraq and Afghanistan there. He has served his time, but he is also an outsider. He is not a company man. He is not someone who has steadily risen the ranks of the DOD bureaucracy, the overinflated ranks at the Pentagon itself there. He has spoken quite eloquently about the need to totally clean house when it comes to getting rid of all the Mark White Rage Milley garbage, basically getting our young warriors away from Robin DiAngelo and Ibram X. Kendi and getting them back towards George Patton and Douglas MacArthur, the kind of things they should be reading and studying, frankly. Pete Hegseth has spoken quite wonderfully as well about the need to reform the VA when it comes to health care there. He seems to have all of the right instincts from what I can tell. You know, people are saying that he's quote unquote not qualified. I mean, what does that even mean? I mean, the guy has served his country honorably in multiple foreign overseas conflicts. Even on the academic credentials that the so-called elites seem to care so much about, dude has Princeton and Harvard degrees. I mean, give me a break. I mean, he's exactly what we need to go in there and to actually get the military to start meeting its recruitment goals again. That means getting morale up. That means getting morale up, instilled in young men, and to inspire them to serve their country and ultimately be willing to risk it all, frankly, in service of the country. You need someone of a younger generation there who has actually served in these post 9/11 wars. I think he's the perfect pick, frankly. I hope he gets confirmed. I think he will.
Tell me finally, Josh, about these recess appointments. There's a lot of talk. Is Trump going to get them? Is he not going to get them? One, is he going to get them? Two, what does that mean to people?
So the recess appointments power is a power in the Constitution where if Congress is not currently in session, so if they are out of session and there's a pressing urgency for to his cabinet or a high-ranking political position, then he can take advantage and issue what is known as a recess appointment, which essentially allows you to bypass the traditional advice and consent process, whereby the U.S. Senate has to vote both in committee and then up and wide in the entire chamber on a certain cabinet or high-ranking nominee. Now, there's a lot of rumors out there that Donald Trump intends to possibly do this when it comes to Matt Gaetz, maybe Pete Hegseth, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, some of the quote-unquote more controversial nominees. Now, it's worth emphasizing this is all rumors. We genuinely have no idea whether or not Donald Trump intends to do this. I think it makes a lot more sense to try and put it up to a vote and then see if you want to go from there. Having said that, you have a lot of the so-called norms people, Jesse, a lot of people in the conservative legal establishment, the same folks that I have been fighting against, frankly, since my first year of law school. A lot of those folks are basically wetting their panties when it comes to the idea that Donald Trump could have the temerity to somehow use a power that is clearly vested him in the Constitution if the votes are not there in the Congress. Again, I say put up these nominees to an actual vote first. But if you don't have the votes there in the Senate and there's an actual recess, there's no reason whatsoever not to go for it. Now, if you really want to get in the weeds, there is a legal dispute as to what actually constitutes a valid recess appointment. There's not a whole lot of Supreme Court case law on this. There was one case from 10 years ago called NLRB versus Canning. There was an Antonin Scalia opinion that suggests that is actually a slightly narrower power than you and I are talking about right now. I say if that's what it comes to, let's do it. Let's tee it up for the courts and see what they say.
Yeah, let's do it. Josh, thank you, my brother. Appreciate it. All right. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.